Whether you're a Class 5 rafter or just looking for a couple of laughs, these two have you covered. Welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show.
Well, happy Friday and get pumped, Aaron, because it's Aaron and Zach's Naive and Entitled Rafting Show. This is a show we do every Friday at 2 p.m. This is entertainment. This is for our own, mine and Aaron's entertainment more than anybody else's. So please don't use this as an opportunity to learn because we're just having fun right now. We might say things we don't mean or goof off too much. If you want to learn from it, learn at your own risk. Please take a minute, subscribe, like, and you can become a member like Blue Puma. Thank you, Blue Puma, for being a member. Those of you that are members will give away prizes. You give us a couple bucks a month, and we can give away prizes every show. And finally, you may be listening to this on River Talk Podcast. We strip the audio. The value here is the video, like looking at Aaron's beautiful face and how enthused he looks. If you're just listening to this, you're missing out on Aaron's enthusiasm and the videos review. But if you want to just listen to the audio while you're driving or something, you can listen to that as part of River Talk Podcast. So with that, Aaron, let's get started. What do you think? Your enthusiasm is killing me today. We got a lot to cover. I think you're going to be jazzed.
I am jazzed, Zach. I'm so jazzed.
All right. Well, you're in charge of the trivia question this week. Just if you're a member of the show and you answer the trivia question this week, here's the prizes you can win. I'm not going to go over this again. You can choose from a pair of Cobra or locks. I have more of these to give away. You can get an emergency blanket plus a Gear Garage coffee mug.
Plus both together.
Both.
That's a combo.
Both. You can get this top of the line SDG raft ladder. You can get Tim Palmer's book, Rivers of Oregon. You can choose any one of these prizes. This is this great book, or you can choose this faked signed autograph of Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze from Point Break, framed and fake signed.
What do you mean fake signed?
Well, it's not their actual signatures. This isn't a real autograph. I think it's just a reproduction of their autograph.
You're giving that away, Zach? Isn't that like your most cherished position? You have multiple copies.
I have a few of them. So, well, this is the old. I mean, I bought this and I love it, but the frames got on Amazon as a 3-pack. And I thought, well, more people deserve to have this in their house. So I'm going to order two more photos. So
3 copies of that. You had to buy 3 copies to get one.
Well, I wanted this frame on Amazon. You can't buy just one frame. So I got 3 frames. This is the only photo I have. I'm going to buy it. If somebody if somebody chooses this, I'm going to get another one of these pictures from eBay. And so I'll have one for my house and my office. So this is an opportunity for a cool prize. So lots of options. You have to answer Aaron's trivia question, which do you have a trivia question, Aaron?
Let's go back for a second. So they get the picture frame and the fake signed copy of Patrick Swayze's fake sign.
You get a framed copy of this reproduction of this autograph photo of Patrick Swayze.
So right there, you get the whole thing. That's pretty amazing.
You get the whole thing.
I want to win that one.
Maybe I'll send you one.
Yeah, that would be. Lizzie would love that. I'm sure that would be an amazing addition to our place. All right. Well, you tell me. I don't know if this is one. Well, what is Zach's favorite river knife?
That's going to be a hard one. I know the answer. I have to look it up now. I don't know what it's called. But that's a good question.
Yeah. What's Zach's favorite river knife? And
I'll look it up.
If no one can answer, we might have to find something easier later on in the show. But that gives me some time.
No, I have a favorite one. I just need to look. I'm Googling it right now to find the answer.
No, I'm more concerned that no one can figure it out.
I just found it. They can. You could watch all. You could stop watching the show, watch all my videos about knives, and try to figure it out. I do have a lot of complex thoughts about river knives. So yeah.
I know some aspects to the knife. I'm just not sure which knife.
You don't even know. That's the thing.
I think the name of it starts with NRS.
Don't give it away. I have to say, back to NRS, we like NRS. We want them to sponsor the show.
Oh, yes.
We want to say lots of nice things about NRS, but to be authentic and honest, their river knives are terrible.
I would say they're terrible. I think
they're pretty bad.
There's some better options out there. Just say that. There's some better options out there. They're not terrible. There's some better.
Have you tried cutting a rope with an NRS river knife?
I don't really cut ropes ever. I just use micro for spreading cream cheese, but
they work fine for spreading cream cheese. But if you actually want to cut rope, I would not recommend the floating version. No. Is this a joke? You must be joking, right?
No, we were talking about floating river knives. So remember we were talking about those floating knives before? He's right. Blue Moon, we were talking about how cool those are, the floating knives, and it makes sense. And you didn't want one that floats.
The floating knives, no, because then you're floating in the river with a bunch of knives floating next to you. You don't want a floating knife. You want it to sink. If you drop it, you want it to sink. I want it to sink. I don't want to be in a raft with a bunch of knives floating around me. It seems like a terrible idea. Okay, Andrew, you're kind of close. Sean, you're kind of close. You need to be very specific. I think that's the one. Hold on. I think that's it. Spider.
Wow,
I have to Google it. Atlantic salt. Sorry, I have to look it up on the website because I'll know it when I see it.
Aaron, I would say, Aaron, that's it. I'm all impressed with all you guys because I kind of know what type Zach likes, but I don't know the name of it. You guys are getting so close. So this was impressive.
Hold on. I got to go to stop. I'm going to share.
People are going to be bummed. Everyone's getting on right now, and they're going to find out that the gift is already gone for today.
It's gone. It's gone. This is it. The Atlantic salt. This knife is sweet, Aaron.
So why do you like it more than the other ones?
I mean, first of all, I like the Spyderco's because it's amazing steel. I mean, this is a $160 knife that's out of stock, right? But it's light. It's lighter than most. The serrated edge is unbelievable. It's a full serrated edge, dual tip, super high quality steel.
Dual tip? What do you mean dual tip?
Sorry, did I say dual tip? I mean blunt tip. Blunt tip.
A blunt tip.
Yeah, and it is made for salt water, but works amazingly in the water. It's not going to rust on you. Yeah, it's a good size. Holding onto it, it just cuts rope really well. It's expensive. It's not for most people. I think most people should get the Gerber one that's like $30. But this is my favorite. The Salt 2. Yeah, or the Salt 2.
Do you know about Aaron's talking about the Bird knockoff? What's that?
The Bird, it's not a Bird knockoff. The Spyderco has a lower quality line of their stuff. So it's like, so if we search,
why don't do the Bird one? Is it not as good?
It's not quite as good, but it's pretty good. It's just not as good as steel, and the mechanism isn't as clean, but it's really good.
So if you lose your knives off and you're fine with the Bird.
Yeah, I mean, you're fine with the Gerber. You're essentially fine with the Gerber. I'll tell you what, Salt 2 also right. So there's a Salt 2, there's a Salt and a Salt 2. They're both kind of right. How about Sean and Aaron? You guys can both win this week. We have plenty of prizes. Both of you email Aaron at riversnotions.com and we'll mail you your prizes. You can both have prizes this week. I'm now, though, on the straight blades. I've used the hooked blade a lot. I did a video where I like the kind of curved back blade, and there's advantages to it. But the more I use both, I really like the straight serrated edge. Yeah, Spyderco. So this is Spyderco. It's the Cara 2. This one, Aaron. Oh, but there's a serrated version of this one.
Yeah.
Cara. I think it's Cara. This is the G10. What's this? Endure. That looks cool too. $136. They have a lot of cool serrated knives, but there's a Cara 2 serrated one.
Zach, you should have a separate gear garage just about knives. We just talk about knives.
I should. He wants a Cobra or we'll send you 2, Aaron. You should tell us whether you want or 2. If you want 2, I'll send you 2. I got like 8 of them here.
Aaron, so you guys send me your address to send me an email with your address to Aaron at riversnotions.com so we can get that mailed to you guys. And remind us in the email which one you wanted, because we'll forget by the time the show ends which one you wanted.
And I want to be clear that the Cobra Orlocks are used, like slightly used, but they're not new. They are
not brand new. Oh, geez.
They're not brand new.
Yeah, I don't know, Aaron.
You're fine. Okay, we got lots of stuff to cover this week, Aaron.
So Zach, what is that on that oar? What do I see?
It's a counterbalance.
Is that a counterbalance? Oh, yeah. I thought it was. You know what I thought it was? Because they got the. I didn't look closely. I just looked at the way. You know how they got it folded back up the oar right? I thought it was a little lock so that how you slide out, it would catch you so you don't slide all the way out.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, that's the handle of the oar, Aaron.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's the handle. I realize it now. It's folded the other way, but I was looking at the. I was looking at the oar right, and I was like, oh, is that like a little lock thing?
Yeah, the oar right it's a convertible oar right flipped to not be convertible. So I was in the river the other day, and I saw this boat and these oars, and there are so many things I didn't like in one place. I'm like, I got to get a photo of all these things I don't like all together. Can you name all the things I don't like in one place?
I'm supposed to look at the whole boat too.
Yeah, just everything. And while you think about it, I just want to have a little.
I gotta make it big. I have a big.
Okay, that's fine. I have opinions about stuff, and I'm not right. I'm wrong all the time, and so I give opinions about. I don't like Cobra Orlocks. I don't like this. I don't like that.
Yeah, the Cobra. You don't like the Cobra.
People think I'm being mean, but I'm just being honest. Like, so this is my feelings. I'm not sugarcoating it. Maybe I'll change my mind.
That's a lot of people who are mean say that. I'm just being honest. That's how they make it okay to be mean. Oh, I'm just being honest. I'm just trying to be honest. So you know, that still doesn't take away the fact that you're being mean.
I'm being honest. No,
you also might be mean though.
It's not mean. It's just I'm saying what I think.
Okay.
Oh, look, the audience is beating you, Aaron.
Yeah, the flip line bags, we see those. We could talk about the Cobra locks. The other thing I'll say is I'm not sure if you care about this or not, but the frames rigged on backwards versus where the foot cups are, does that bother you at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't really matter, but it's just a stylistic thing.
I know you don't like the counterbalance.
Actually, is that an E1? Is that an E bow? I think this. I should look more carefully. I think this is an E. So
yeah, it's asymmetric.
It actually does matter how it sits because the front he's rowing is really wide. It's meant the bow is supposed to be on the other side. So that's another thing I didn't even notice. There was an E bow, and that's rigged wrong.
Those stupid little metal things on the cooler. I don't understand what those are for. Why people use those? Can you explain to me what those are for?
Oh, under the cooler.
The little metal brackets. I've never understood why they put those on there.
They do. It just makes it the cooler just sits a little nicer. It's kind of silly. I mean, I've used just straps for my whole career and never used it. I've used those metal things before, and straps are just fine.
I've never worked for an outfitter that uses them.
Because outfitters don't. I mean, there's about 10 things that. I mean, everything I don't like, outfitters don't do. Right? Outfitters don't have flip dangles, don't have counterbalanced oars, don't have the metal things under the coolers. I think a lot of this stuff you just go to NRS.
They bought a lot of stuff they may not need to buy. The more expensive Cobra locks.
Yep.
Zach, after that, I'm starting to run out. You don't like the frame? You don't like the NRS frame? No, you like that frame.
I like this frames. That's actually, I mean, I think the frames that's a pretty simple frame. Counterweighting wrong side of locks.
Yeah, Sean, I thought that at first too, but that's not the case. It's just the oars are in opposite directions, and it's got the little flip. It's flipped back. It's one of those.
It's a convertible oar right. So the oar right is flipped on the other side. So actually, it is on the right side of the locks. It just doesn't look like it.
Yeah, because the oars are opposite directions.
Okay, this is one minor thing, but he's using the 10-inch oar towers, which
I was wondering if you were going to talk about that. Yeah, those big
oh man, I don't think anybody should ever use those. They just make it's really tall. So it's a solution because his cooler
is
really
6'6", should I use it? Maybe he's just a super tall guy.
No, I don't think so. Because it's so much farther to reach down to the water. And so it splays your oars out farther. So it increases the distance between your oar locks, which requires longer oars. And it's so tall, it's a longer distance down to the river. And so this is probably a 13-foot boat. He probably needs 11-foot oars to make this work, but probably doesn't have 11-foot oars because the people at NRS probably said buy 9-foot oars. And so his oar length is off by a lot, I'm guessing. Yeah, it's because of the high cooler. Exactly, Aaron. This cooler is too high.
But even that cooler is not that high for how high those locks are.
I mean, it's a bummer that cooler is so high, first of all. But
it is. But it's not that high compared to.
It's not ridiculous. He could still run the 8-inch towers here. Yeah. He could still run the 8-inch towers and be just fine, I'm sure. But because the cooler is so high, he probably thought he had to buy the higher.
So single day trip or is this a multi-day trip?
Single day.
Well, that's a whole other issue. Is why are you taking a huge cooler for a single day?
Because he has to for his seat. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a whole nother problem with it. That's a pain. Yeah.
Yeah. I see this a lot when I teach rowing classes. For a day, people have 3 bay frames. They can't do day trips because they have to have all their boxes and coolers and all the things to go rafting instead of having a frame for just rafting.
And that frame, I mean, they're expensive, but when you look at the big picture of how much everything costs and how much extra work that is, it feels like it's worth the money just to have a day frame, a lightweight day frame.
I mean, it's easy to say, Aaron, as a wealthy individual, but the rest of us, who are barely scraping by.
You mean with my $900 used Sotar raft that doesn't have any baffles in it?
I mean, it's easy to say that, like, buy multiple frames, buy multiple. I get this. I think I'd get a seat adapter for this frame and throw a seat.
In this case, that's true. With the 3-bay, with all this other stuff going on, and you've got all the drop bags and all that stuff. When you've got that expensive rig like this one, no, I would just get a seat adapter for it. Totally agree.
Yeah, and I was kayaking and looked down and I was like, I see so many things I don't like in one place. And I want to be clear, these are opinions. Again, I could be wrong. I'm being very elitist, as a show says. I'm not a fan of weights on your oars. That's like counterbalancing at all.
Me neither.
But I've had people really get pissed at me for that opinion because they don't have the strength to physically hold the oars all day.
Well, why is he having counterbalance? Let's talk about
I know why. So in this case, his oars are too short.
His oars are too short. The towers are really high.
Yep. And so he's rowing like this. Yep.
Yep.
His oar from the tower to his hand is so short. He needs the weight. So because I teach a lot of classes. I fit a ton of boats, and here's the problem: over and over and over, they're sitting too high. So they fix that with bigger oar towers. Well, then they fix that because their oars are too short with counterbalances. So
and they have the oars out really wide.
And then they have the oars out really wide. And there's so many problems. So if they just got their seating height correct, they could have used the right oar towers and the right oars. And I guarantee this looks like an NRS purchase to me. NRS, we love you. We want you to sponsor the show. Thank you for being amazing. But I think when people do buy stuff from NRS doesn't always give them the right oar length. And so even with 8-inch towers, his oars are probably too short to begin with. So you throw these towers on there and you're just like, it's insanity.
No, totally.
Am I being mean, Aaron? Was that mean or was that honest?
Zach, you're saying making it sound like it can be either mean or can be honest.
It can was that honest without being mean?
It can be mean and not honest.
Was I being honest without being mean?
Or were you being honest without being mean?
Yeah.
I don't think you're being that mean about it. Like the poor person who's probably sitting at home crying to themselves that
they're not even watching. Anybody who watches this show probably doesn't have a setup like that.
Hopefully not at this point, because we've talked about it enough. But it's classic. And you know what? Who knows where he got the setup? He might have bought it from somebody else, and this is what it is. And I think a lot of it, the problem is just the lack of knowledge. It's not anyone, it's like, it's not his fault. He's doing the best he can, or she.
Yeah. How dare you? You're sexist. Hey, I want to point out that we're sharing this to share our thoughts on this. And so if you don't know much about boats and geometry, hopefully other people can use this to make decisions that are more in line with what we think. And of course, what we think is probably wrong because we're wrong all the time.
But Zach, I'm going to say I think it's just frustrating to watch this because you want this person to go enjoy their time out on the river. Yeah. And with some adjustments, it would be, they're not going to have to lug around these heavy oars with the counterbalances on them. It's going to be easier to row downstream. They're going to be taking less gear in and out of their boats. There's just all these things. They're going to have a better time, and it's going to work better for them. So I think that's the hard part about looking at that, is that you're just like, it's kind of a bummer. Like, cool, this person wants to get on the river. They're psyched to be out there just like all of us. And you're like, man, they're not setting themselves up for success. So yeah. I'm glad you did read that.
There we go. Found out who it is. What's up, Patrick?
Aaron, Patrick.
Hey, Aaron, do you want to apologize to Patrick for all those mean things?
I don't think anything mean. I said, Patrick, hopefully what we said help you and you can make some adjustments and have more fun, right? Or maybe you love it this way.
I don't think it's Patrick.
Super stupid. I don't think we're super stupid. Just tell us in the comments.
I think he's messing with us because his boat is in the photo and it's red.
Well, maybe that's not his boat. Maybe he's ruined someone else's there.
Hey, and you could, but also this is an e-bow, so the pointy part is in the back. So maybe he's rowing it backwards downstream. But he's about to run a raptor the big hole, and if he runs that big wide bow first, I should have stayed in taking video, but that would be rude. All right.
All right, let's move on to the next thing. That was a great one, though, Zach. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, I was on the river and I'm like, something seems odd. Somebody sent us this photo. Do you remember this, Aaron?
Yeah. I actually pulled. That's funny. I had that on my. I kind of had marked that up. Yeah. What's your thoughts on this? I have some definite thoughts.
Cool. I mean, my thoughts are like, so the idea here is it's this little patch you can run webbing through, and so your bow line or your perimeter line stays close to your boat. Like it's kind of cool. I think you need more of those. The distance between those is probably large, so it's going to flex a lot. I bet the webbing might tear the patch because the way it's going to pull on it. I mean, it looks cool and it looks like it's going to work. My guess is, in actuality, it's not going to work that well.
No, if your boat's flexing a lot, I think it's going to slowly cut through it. I'll guess it'll
the
cut
patch.
Through.
Yep.
Yeah, cut through the patch on that side. And the other thing I worry about is sometimes you'll really hold on, and I feel like, and then maybe this isn't true, that the D ring will hold better than that, but I don't know if that's actually true.
I think the D ring will hold better than that.
Yeah, and then you don't have a place to if you have a raft boat or something like that. And, I mean, you can just go around the tube here, Cavagnolo method it. We're good, but
you're naming the method after yourself.
You named it after me. Remember that?
Okay.
You named it after me.
Got it.
Yes, that was your naming, and I'm embracing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
And you're forced to use webbing. Like you can't use rope. I guess you could throw a rope through there, but like it's okay. I'm not, and it's a single-use thing.
I think I'd rather have a D ring there.
Me too, because if you need a D ring to rig gear in, a frame in, pull on and a wrap, I mean that's only useful for making webbing flat against your boat. That's it.
I think it's nice. People do complain about hitting them when they're paddle boating.
Yeah,
particularly people who are new to it. But once you learn to paddle, I didn't really have problems hitting D rings after I paddled.
It's never a thing I've had a problem with in my life. I've heard of other people go, "Oh, I hurt my knuckle on a D ring."
But you have had a lot of guests who complained about that, right?
I've heard people, not a lot, but I've heard people say, "Oh, I hit my knuckle on a D ring." I'm like, I'm sorry, that sucks. Do you want a Band-Aid?
Yeah, let's go. Aaron has it. Yeah.
Do you want to answer this so I can find another thing to put up?
I'd say, like Aaron, like going back to the counterbalance. First of all, the swing weight becomes heavier, so it's a lot slower to move your oar with the counterbalance. That's one problem with it. Another problem is just carrying them up and down to the river and moving around. They're just way heavier, and they're more awkward. They don't balance right when you're carrying them. And I think that the biggest issue, and I think this is where Zach and I agree, is that usually people are using counterbalance oars because they don't have the right length of oar for their setup. And that's our big issue with this. Like usually when you see that, you see the oar is too short for their setup and so they have to counterbalance it. So because they have to have so much oar on the water side of the boat, on the water side of the lock, that they need that counterbalance to keep it up. But then the oars are going to be too wide for them anyways. So it's not a good setup. They're not setting themselves up for success.
Did you mention that they sink?
Oh, that's true. It causes the oars to not float nearly as well. I forgot about that part. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of oars that sink. And so it's like, let's add some weight so our oar sinks. Commercial boat only paddling guests. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and it's not a bad idea, but I don't know. Would you put on? I would do it. Boat wraps. You can't clip to it. Like you can't tie your boats down on your vehicle to it, and so
the D rings serve a lot of purposes. That serves one purpose, and you have to use webbing. I mean, before I totally hate on it, I'd want to go use it. Like, let me go try to pull myself into a boat with it. Let me play with it a little bit. I have a feeling
it does make the line so flush to the boat. It might even be hard. Yeah.
I don't. I think the flotation boat is good. I think the distance between those things is going to be large, and so there's going to be a lot more play when you pull on the thing. It's gonna, like, if I go to pull myself in the boat and I put my arm down, I'm going to push it down really far because I don't think there's that many of those things on the boat. But I don't know for sure. But it's cool. It's cool. I think it's interesting for the right person. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. You ready to move on, Aaron?
Yeah, let's go.
Lots to do, and you're about to fall asleep, so I want to get through some things before I lose you. Somebody emailed us about solo boating. I don't know if we need to bring the content of that email up. And basically, if I can put this in a small amount of words, he said, I like boating. I want to go boating, but I don't have people to go boating with. So I want to go solo boating. What do you guys think? Did I sum it up pretty well there?
Yeah. That's yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we're gonna answer this. Aaron, do you want to play good cop or bad cop? Which one do you want me to play?
You can go with whatever you want to, and then I'll tell you you're wrong.
Okay, so I'm gonna say you should not solo boat. And I'm gonna compare it to like playing Ultimate. I really want to play Ultimate Frisbee. I like Ultimate Frisbee. I don't really play Ultimate Frisbee with, so I just go play Frisbee with my dog, right? I can't go play Ultimate because I don't have people to go with. And boating to me is the same. It's a team sport, and you have to look out for each other. And so without people looking out for you in a team, I don't think it's responsible to go boating. He also asks about, are commercial guides and outfitters cool with like, yes, I forget exactly what he said, but like, if I am boating by myself, how do commercial guides view me on the river? And I can only speak for myself, but I would, if I saw somebody boating by themselves, expecting me to rescue them if they had a problem, as a guide, I'd be frustrated because I'm at work. I don't, like I have like a responsibility to what did somebody?
Brett's comment is just too funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's.
I'm sorry. I just.
We actually need to rename the show. But I
love that as a title for the show. That's incredible, Brett.
I mean, it's pretty correct.
You can say whatever you want. I'll tell you.
Wait, Aaron, you're laughing at the thing you said. Again, you're being.
Oh my God, it's such a great name for our show, though, because it's totally true. Say what we want, and I'm gonna tell you wrong.
So, good one. Let me finish my thought. You rudely interrupted me.
Sorry.
I'm blaming Brett too for starting this nonsense. But I would say, like, as a guide, if I see somebody boating by themselves and I have to rescue them, I'm happy to do it. But I'm not happy to do it if you're being irresponsible. Like, if you didn't bring if you need first aid gear and you didn't bring first aid, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be kind of annoyed. Like, you should have your own first aid gear. Or if you rap and you're by yourself, I'm like, dude, like, you should have friends to help you with this. Like, people are paying us to be here. We have a responsibility to them. Not to say like private boaters. I've been a commercial guide and private boaters have helped me. And so I'm all about like, let's help each other out. But if somebody's being like, what I'm going to say is, what's the word I'm looking for? Not irresponsible, but like negligent in some way, which I personally consider solo boating to be somewhat negligent. I am going to look at that in a not positive way. I'm still going to help. I'm still going to be nice, but I'm not stoked on it.
I think you say some good stuff in there, and I think Sean's. I think we're all in agreement on wise, but I'll say like, so is going backpacking by yourself and going out into the wilderness by yourself. But there's something about that experience that's valuable, and we're all gonna die, So like, it's gonna happen. So it's not like and there is definitely an added level of risk. And Zach, I think you bring up a lot of good points. Having said that, like, I think we've both solo boated. A lot of people we know have solo boated. There's something special about doing it. And and I know, great, you bring up the accident report, but I'll say this, a couple of things. I think in his in John's email, he writes about, I've been on both sides of this where like, it's a river with a big rapid, and I'll just like, and everything else is pretty mellow. And I know there's commercial boats on there. And so I'll just hang out until they come up, and then I'll just kind of go down after them. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm fine, but I just want someone else around just in case. And like, depending, like, and I've had people ask me, you're cruising up and they'll be like, hey man, do you mind if we just follow you through this rapid? And it's like, everything else is mellow. This is the one big rapid on the river. And I've even had groups of multiple boats. They're saying, hey, we think we're fine, but we just feel more comfortable. And you're like, yeah, cool, man. That's fine. And but they're people who don't look like, they're not just a super mess and a junk show out there doing. They're just like, they're wearing the proper gear. They're properly outfitted. They're running well together. They're doing all those other things. They're like, hey, we just like, we're a little nervous. We want a little added level of safety here. Sure.
Hey, I get that, but we're not talking about, we're talking about solo boating.
I know, but I think what I'm talking about, the solo boater, I think fits in the same category. If you're a solo boater, you're properly equipped, as you said, you're doing everything right, and you want to be out there because you're wanting that experience. and it's well within your level of skill, clearly, that you're not on the edge of your level of skill, and you're something that's like, I'd say even a level down from what you can
if
do.
You're solo boating, you have to be a boater that's super competent at a level higher than your solo boating.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're a solid class 4 boater, you're running class 3.
Not that it's okay to do, but you can't be a class 3 boater solo boating class 3. That's totally unacceptable, right? At minimum, you're a class 4 boater, hopefully a class 5 boater solo boating class 3 if you're choosing to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, also just like going for, I mean, should we say people shouldn't go for a float on a flat water stretch for a day with one boat? With no rapids?
I'm not going to say that, no.
You know, and I think that's the thing is like, and I think that's still a really cool experience to go out on flat water and just row a boat down.
Yeah, it seems like a responsible thing to do. The problem is when there's swift water, you're solo boating and you swim, you could potentially have nobody to rescue you. And there's a good amount of data showing that there's a lot of fatalities. And I only know this because every year here in the gorge, somebody dies solo boating. And their family is distraught. The community is distraught. It's selfish. Like when you go out,
totally.
You know, like it's a bummer when people die boating anytime. But when you're like, I know it's solo boating too. Like, come on, you know, because it's not just affecting you; it's affecting everybody who loves you.
But I would say this too: is I'd say if you're solo boating all the time, I think that's you're just playing the odds. Like, am I likely to walk to trip walking down the street one day? No, but over 20 years, I'm probably going to trip one day, right? And I think going out boating by yourself, if you do it once, you're probably going to be fine. But you do it enough time, something's going to happen. You play that too often, you just start messing with the odds. And so I think it's a neat experience. And I don't want to say, I'll say don't do it. I'd say it's not a good idea, but we know a lot of people do it. And I think make sure you're prepared and don't expect help from other people. And don't be upset if other people don't help you. I think that's more important. Don't be incensed if people don't want to help you. Like, because I think that you have to recognize that I am responsible for myself here. Yeah. And I think on the trip as well. Like, if your trip has problems and another group doesn't want to help you, is that good river etiquette? No. But that's their choice, and that's okay. You know, I
want to get the comments here. I just want to kind of sum this up and say, I'm not going to approve of solo boating. I'm just not going to say, yeah, it's cool, you're good to do it. Like, that's just something to do. If you understand the risks and you go do it. But I don't want the average boater to like think it's okay, because once it's becoming normalized, then people just start doing it like it's no big deal. And so it's something that you choose to do. You understand the risks and you accept them for you and your family and your friends. And you are boating well below your actual ability level. That's my opinion.
And you realize you're being a bit of a dumbass.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Sean, I would say asking a commercial company to use your text device is totally fine. Like, if you asked us, we wouldn't even hesitate, because I know they're expensive. They're hard to maintain. They're hard to learn how to use. And I mean, if any private boater had an accident and need to use our text device, no problem. I think we're happy to do it. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure AO is too. Much better friends. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I think.
Yeah, totally.
People solo boat because they either live in an area where there's no other boaters and they can't find friends, or they're not good at making friends. You know, they just can't, or they like don't mesh well with the people they meet, and they'd rather go by themselves than, you know, because some people go boating with them and they're always late. They take an hour and a half to get ready. There's, you know, some people are like, oh, come on. You know, they forget something. They want to pull over and smoke a joint. You're like, dude.
I think, Zach, that is, you know, we talked about potentially having the show. And I don't know I don't even look what the title of the show is. What's the title of the show today?
Downstream Ferrying. We haven't even got there yet.
Oh, so we're not going to talk about, but I think there's a conversation about being a good guide. You know, and we were talking about a little bit after the show last week or something, and like being a good guide for private boater mans too, because that's how you get invited on trips, is being a good guide. And I think a lot of the skills that we talk about as being a good commercial guide apply if you want to get invited on trips on a private trip.
Yeah. And be there on time, have your gear dialed. I mean, having physical strength helps. Like, if you can't You can't even carry stuff. Like people aren't going to want to carry all your stuff for you. So like not having a big, heavy boat, but not being physically fit is probably not going to get you invite because you need everybody to carry all your stuff for you. And that's rough.
Yeah. I think about it a little bit like a job or an interview or something like that. You want to impress the people around you. You want to make it easy on them. You want to make them want to have you around, and be on your stuff and just kind of be able to roll with the situation.
Yeah. And here's rough track retreats. I hear this a lot. I'm still going to say it's not okay.
I'm curious where you are where there's no one to boat with too.
I'm not. There's lots of places, but
where's the place that you can't find?
In the middle of Canada. There's places all over Canada that people live and there's no other boaters.
I thought everyone canoed in Canada.
I mean, maybe canoes, but boating includes canoeing.
No, what I mean is I thought there's canoers everywhere in Canada. Like everyone boats in Canada. I thought
Canada's large. I don't know. He maybe lives somewhere else. I'm just saying, like,
making a broad generalization.
I'm going to make the point that if solo boating is the only option, I don't know, get into hiking. I know you don't want to hear this, but like I'm going to make that claim.
Or I would say is don't really run whitewater. Just do flat water trips. Yeah.
And this is our opinion. We're probably wrong. I don't think we're wrong, but take it or leave it. This is entertainment. Don't forget this. This is entertainment. This is an education right now. It's education. This part.
And John, I think that's a good point. I think
multiple person. I think multiple people on one boat is more dangerous than one person on one boat.
Okay. So you think, Zach? You think the two of us R2ing together is more dangerous than you rowing a boat by yourself?
I don't think the two of us, because we're both competent swimmers and can get back to a boat and self-rescue. But I mean, a number of the accidents are one boat where there's a guide and their friend. The person rowing the boat flips and two people are not swimming. You have now two victims that can't be saved.
Well, and I think the big problem with this is a lot of times that second person isn't skilled, isn't experienced, doesn't know what to do. So
it depends on the situation. But exactly. Solo boating in most cases.
Yeah, I consider solo boating one boat as well. And I think there's some trade-offs between having one person or multiple people in the boat. And it depends on the situation. It could be better. It could be worse.
But generally, I mean, when I read through accident data, multiple people on one boat is worse than one person on one boat. Because that's multiple people that have to get rescued. If you both fall out, that's multiple victims all of a sudden that they have nobody to rescue them.
But you would be better off with us R2ing together than you R2ing by yourself. That's way safer.
Say that again?
Way safer. It's way safer for the two of us to R2 in a raft than for you to R1 a raft by yourself.
Because we're better at R2ing and we can self-rescue.
And we can rescue each other. If you get hit on the head, I can go get you.
Yeah. But I'd rather have us.
Probably not both going to fall or get hit on the head at the same time.
But safer is me kayaking and you rowing.
Oh, totally.
Like that's more responsible. Okay, let's go. While this, every time this comes up, I like to go through the American Whitewater Accident Database. I have not looked at this. I just always look at the last 20 accidents, and we'll just see that how people have recently had problems. No PFDs is a thing. Low head dam, health problem, flush drowning, which could just means they went downstream and died, but there's not really an answer. Pin boat. No PFD, flush drowning, health problem, flush drowning. No PFD, flush drowning, PFD not warm. Oh, there's no solo. Oh, here we go. Oh, on this side, one boat trip. Here's where it is. It's in this column. Experience, cold water. So only one of the last 20 is a one boat trip. Inflatable kayak, one boat trip, private trip. But if you look through this data, a lot of times you can make this. We can look at the last 80 here if we wanted to. If you start looking through these, you'll see a lot of one boat trips. Solo paddling right there. I'm going more than the last 20. Solo paddling. It comes up a lot. Solo paddling. It's like, I mean, it actually hasn't come up as a one boat trip as much as I'm used to seeing it. One boat trip. And it's not, they didn't die because they're on a one boat trip. That's just a factor. That's just a thing that they noted. And you wonder, these people in solo paddling, would it have happened if there was a second boat there? And my guess is, let's say there's 8 of them here in the past 80. I'd say my guess would be like only 1 or 2 of them would have died if there was somebody there to help. That's just a guess. I mean, I'm making this up. This is an exact thing. All right, you ready to move on, Aaron?
Yeah, totally.
We have so much to do. I don't even know where to start. So let's go to Slide Rapid. And remember on an episode a few weeks ago, somebody asked about Slide Rapid at 20,000 CFS.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, after that, somebody sent us some video of them running it. Was it the person that asked us?
I think so.
Sent us the video of them doing it. But I want to share this video with you first. This is my friend Eric in his Facebook post a video of him at like 22,000 taking a ducky slide. Eric Weisseth, yeah. And so I'm going to pause here. I think this is what we talked about. Like, hey, if you can drive left and just miss all the stuff in the middle, you can power through the laterals.
He's not even working that hard. It looks like
he's not hitting the meat. He's like running the left side, powering through these laterals. That left side looks pretty smooth over there.
Yeah.
Right, and he's staying kind of on the left, showing off, catching an eddy. Look, even other people. I bet those are commercial guests, just following him down.
Oh yeah, totally.
He's guiding them down. So, you know, if a kayak can do it at 20,000, it seems like a raft should be able to, right?
And a bunch of people with zero experience following them down, making it down pretty much.
Yeah. So here's the video we were sent. Let's go full screen. Let's go full. There we go. Of the raft doing it. And before we get too far into this, he also mentioned he had a homemade rickety frame.
Yeah, look at that frame. That's awesome. It's got there are those pins like attached to the oar there permanently?
I think those are Pro Locks. But look at that. Look at the little tiny little, it's connected to the frame with just these 4 little bars.
Whoa.
I've never seen anything like that.
His deck is really high up too. That makes it look hard to row.
He's got wood deck. Get that NRS. Hey, NRS, we love you. We're gonna promote the NRS dry box. See that yellow dry box? I forget what they're called.
Does it actually keep stuff dry?
It's dry in quotes box. It should be called a splash proof box. I mean, it probably keeps stuff dry. I wouldn't put bread in there. I'd put like melons though. Anyway, that's just my opinion. It could be an actual dry box. But I think it's a dry in quotes box. They have nice high float PFDs on. Smart.
They're taking the big line.
They're taking the big line.
I didn't say that. One thing about the inflate. Whoa, no! He's still in.
No helmets.
The one thing about the inflatable kayak is it's easier to drive it down over stuff forward, you know, because you got a much more of a power stroke there. Like here, he's rowing upstream. He's working against tracking on the raft. That's a tough move to do.
Well, and that's why the title of this show is Downstream Ferry, because I was on the Selway last week, and Aaron, you know that river well, I have some Selway footage to share. But I thought the Selway rapids were pretty easy if you ran a downstream ferry. So we were there, and I ran into some private boater friends of mine, and they kept saying, "Oh, we back ferried away from the hole, and then we went in the hole anyway." And I just downstream ferried most of the moves, and they seem pretty easy. And so I want to make the point that he is doing that thing where he's back ferrying away from it, and then he's turning into it and just going down the middle. Where what I would have done is turn my boat around and pulled downstream with that lateral he's about to hit, and you're done. Yeah. Unless you want to go down the meat and get thrown out of the boat or thrown over.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go down the middle, that's a fun line down the middle. And that looks like a fun line. His is a hard boat to stay in just because his feet are so high up. You know, he doesn't have a lot of
But
it's hard to be stable.
That is not fun. Nobody wants to. Whatever.
What are you talking about? That looks super fun.
No. I already know somebody's likely.
Oh my god!
Right there. No.
You stated that looks amazing. Hey diddle diddle, right down the middle.
He went hey diddle down the middle, but like this wave slows him down a little bit. This one slows him down. He has almost no momentum as he heads into this monster, and something. This is a violent thrashing.
If you'd been pointing a little more to the right, it would have been fun.
Nah, maybe, but he had so little momentum.
Yeah, no.
And it's so hard to point a little bit more to the right, like you say. Like it's big water.
It's breaking hard on the right. You got to feel.
But that third wave was a beating was coming. And you could have
it's a dance at the river. You got to watch how it's building. And it was definitely building on the right, and it definitely breaks harder on that right side.
But if your goal is to not get hurt and to have nice lines, I mean, somebody could have got hurt there. I mean, probably the odds are probably like 1 in 10, but still,
1 in 10.
I bet 1 in 10 somebody like hits their hand there or like bonks their head. His life jacket looks a little bit loose, don't you think? It's like sitting a little high. Does it look a little bit loose to you?
I'm not gonna come on that. I'm gonna say that looked like a lot of fun.
Oh, dude, that looks like fun. Trying to get your oars back in, almost falling out.
Well, I think that oar set was challenging, much more challenging than most to get reorganized. It looks like, but no, that was a fun diddle. That would look like a lot of fun.
I mean, they took the hero line, that's for sure.
Why would you go around that? You go all those miles to hit that rapid, just go around it.
No, I'm not doing all those miles to go down the middle of rapids and get splashed. I'm doing those miles to spend time in a beautiful place, and my goal is to like finish
getting crushed by big waves is so fun though, Zach. Oh man,
I think we're on a different wavelength here. So anyway, that's slide rapid at 20. It turns out it is super runnable, even in duckies. But I took some video to share with you from the subway, and I remember a few weeks ago you were like, "No more wind footage. Why don't you share footage of a river I'd like?" And so let's do it. But before we do, we have comments to get to, huh?
Yeah, we have a lot of comments.
Okay, hold on. Cool. Let me make us bigger, and then we'll get to these. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. Funky. Oh, wait, is this Andrews?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I'm always putting things together. Yeah, those
Orlocks
are interesting. Yeah. I have always wanted to try them.
It looks like a pain though, because if you pop them out like you were doing, it looked like it was hard to get them back in the same part. Like I'd be soaked to be able to use that on that run. It looks like a foot that will work well. So
yeah. Do Carlisle or Sink? I forget.
I found a lot on the bottoms of rivers.
I have too. I found one last year. Now that I think about it, they probably do sink.
I don't think right away. I think they fill with water over time and sink.
Okay, they do bend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're cool Orlocks. I've seen them before. Check the bicycles. Big wave. Both cleaned it. Sweet. Yeah, Andrew, I'm really curious. Did you ever, when you got tossed, were you like, that was fun? Or were you like, oh, I could have got hurt doing that? Before it dropped in, so backstroking to forward. I mean, I think that's a pretty common thing where you're like pulling, and then bam, going forward. Like, I think he was back ferrying to get position, and then he was like, I'm going for it now. That's my take, is he used the back ferry for position to then just go Aaron's line down the middle. What are you laughing at, Aaron?
Oh, there's some great comments.
First, this commercial trip, but excited to get back in there. Sweet. If you don't eat your vegetables, just skip the meat. Yeah, I kind of get that. Oh, no, I'm good, Andrew. Thank you. That's super nice of you. But like, whoa, slow down. That means I have to like get them, put them on a boat, take it out. I have to mail them back. Like, I'm pretty busy. But thanks for the offer. But hey, I'll trade you for some Cobras. If you want to trade them straight up, I'll send you some Cobras. Read the question out loud, and all of us are reading along, just listening. Oh.
Yeah, we aren't reading any questions though today.
Yeah.
Oh, the questions you're answering in I got you. When people make comments, we can talk about what the comment says, so they can.
I'm gonna do my best to do that, but
we can try to do a little better on that, or make our answers. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best, but that sounds like less fun for me. The character is really hard to position once from the current. We're pulled just to the left of the intended line.
Huh. A little left of the intended line.
When you say cataract, does it mean his cataract? He was in a raft.
No, I think that was a cataract with the wood floor on it.
Oh, got it.
I'm guessing
just a little left, huh? Cool. Well, Andrew, thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. All right, you ready for this footage, Aaron?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I did a little fancy speed it up just to get interesting, and you're gonna have to remind me.
Yours look a little wide there, Zach.
Hold on, Aaron. Slow down, champ. It's a 17-foot cat that's cool. No rocker.
Oh, that's fun. That makes it hard to turn them.
Yeah. Aaron, what length orders do you think those are?
10s?
11s.
Are they 11s?
Yeah. And I actually ran them overlocking some days. I think this day I was running Inzies Outies, but they're 11s. This is like a 17-foot cat.
Are you running a slant board? That's nice.
Yep. This is our safety cat that we use for high water Middle Fork in Illinois that's based off of those Earth River cats.
Yeah.
Right? It has that same frame, the slant board.
And you stuck your wife up front to freeze up there? That's not nice. That's such a cold spot up there.
Dude, it's not that bad.
Luckily she's not listening, so she doesn't know that you just like put her in a hole.
Hey, Aaron, where am I supposed to put her instead? Do you want her to row?
I don't think you would take her down in a cat like that and make her sit up front.
So do I just leave her at home?
You don't row a cat. Take her in something that's more comfortable.
Like what?
Like a raft.
Yeah, no, because I had to like transport the raft and yeah, no. I mean, we couldn't just bring unlimited gear. This was easy to transport.
You can get one of those cats with the little seat for her sitting behind you.
Oh, I keep starting from the beginning. Oh, this thing about using this video feature and this is I don't think I can pause it. So we'll just get to here. It's kind of fun to watch it go in fast motion. Peter asked about the slant board. It was great. I love slant boards. Like I can row slant boards all day long.
Yeah, I agree. I love the slant board. Is that just it looks like it doesn't have that much angle on your slant board. Is that the case, or is that just the view?
No, it's the view. It's the view. Yeah. So the double drop is a wrapping. So what you see, I turn around backwards, pull downstream, break through this. It's a pretty big lateral in the entrance. Mm-hmm. Break through it, and then pretty much done. To pull a little bit. Or yeah, that was lateral too.
Did you row backwards all the way down the whole thing, or do you spin it around and end up going?
You'll see. There's the hole.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So I mean, I think for me, I like to miss the big stuff because I don't want to flip. I don't want to get hurt, and so I'll downstream ferry a lateral, and then just be done.
That's sad.
Why is it sad? So when you run double drop, do you just hit the meat, Aaron?
No, I don't.
So why is it sad then?
Because there's certain places it is fun to run down the middle.
There are some places, but that's not one of them. So here's Wapoots. I wasn't as worried about it, so I pushed through the lateral in the entrance.
Well, this is really easy at this flow. This is like, This is not even like, this is a much harder rapid at lower flows. You can go way right at the stop. Usually when it's lower, you got to go way around to the left, and you come back to the right, and you got to go back to the left. So this is a very mellow flow for it.
So if this lateral right here was bigger, I'd be downstream ferrying.
Yeah.
But this isn't that big, so I was able to kind of just push through it for the most part and then get left. I got a little bit hit. But yeah, it's pretty easy.
That looks like a fun boat to row.
Oh, now you approve of the boat.
Well, it does look like a fun boat to row. I didn't say that. I just said I wouldn't put my wife in the front of it. Well, I actually would, but I would put her up there because it'd be fun to row, but yeah, I wouldn't tell her this.
She was fine. She had a dry suit and never wore it, so it was never that cold.
You're ladle now?
Yeah, this was just down the middle. I didn't even push this move.
It's just being on the right line. Sometimes at the entrance it gets pretty boily and it gets hard to be on the right line through here.
It was pretty straightforward. Yeah, the day before.
Did you guys scout it?
Yeah. I scouted the day before and watched a bunch of private boaters take the right line. And then we came back, scouted again, and then just went center.
I mean, you hit the beautiful window on the flows.
Yeah. And so Wolf Creek, same thing. Like there's a big lateral, and there's a pretty big hole just below it in the center. And so same thing, just turning downstream. I'm trying to be downstream about 45 degrees. So I can just tee up to this lateral right here. I think that was it right there. And then just spin around. And there, and there's the hole right there. You see the hole right there? I could have hit the hole and been fine, but it was good to practice. And I actually was able to catch an eddy.
Yeah, it was a nice eddy, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, the downstream ferry is so powerful. It got me so far left that I was able to hang out in this eddy for a second. And then it's pretty straightforward below that.
More great comments, guys. More great comments. Yeah. Oh, you caught an eddy way up there. Oh.
In the like pretty high up, like in the rapid.
Yeah.
It was amazing because that downstream ferry, my point is that downstream ferry is so powerful. I broke through the laterals. I had momentum. It just carried me really far left and made that move easy. If I had back ferried, I couldn't have missed that hole.
Particularly with the cataract. The cataracts of the downstream ferry are amazing. Like you can just, Nice one. All right. We got more comments.
All right, let's get to those. I'm sure you're excited. That's 4 feet. Yeah, I'm glad you like slant boards. Slant boards are a lost art. Don't you feel that, Aaron? People don't really run slant boards anymore?
Not many. No. Not many at all.
Yeah. Don't think about the down route. Yeah. I'm a massive fan. I do it a lot. I've been doing it all year. And I watch people try to push rapids and they just can't push through a lateral and they get tossed into a hole. Or they try to back ferry above stuff and the laterals just funnel them back to the middle. And I just think that it's an underused skill.
I'm going to say it's probably, in my mind, in the bag of tricks, it's, if I were to put like, what are the most important skills to have, that's up there. That's definitely top 5, top 3 is a downstream ferry, like gets you out of a lot of trouble. Even on technical river, low volume rivers, using it a lot, high volume, of course, using it like what we're seeing there. But yeah, that downstream ferry and be able to do that and use your power when rowing to get yourself into eddies, it's unbelievable.
And I've been thinking a lot about the downstream ferry this whole year because on spring Illinois trips, I was using it a bunch. And I really found that on like hard rapids, I could just downstream ferry the entrance, a move, and be done.
Yep.
Like it's like there'd be like kind of a lat. There's almost like a lot of rapids are a lateral and a hole.
Yeah.
That's just it's so many rapids you can make seem that way. And if people are afraid of that lateral, but if you just tee up to it on a pole and just power through it, you're done.
Yeah, I think exactly. Basically, there's a feature pushing you someplace you don't want to go. Right? So there's like a lateral wave, something that's going to slow you down, push you like towards a rock or a hole, and just be able to bust through it. And the easiest way to bust through those is, like you said, downstream ferry. Or there's a rock that's guarding it, and you got to get around this rock and go down, then there's something down below that you need to avoid. So downstream ferry into the eddy water behind the rock, same thing. That works really nicely. Even if you're not busting a big lateral wave, just downstream ferry into the eddy water, you spin around, you avoid that obstacle downstream.
Yeah. But I think, you and I practiced it a lot. Working on Tuolumne, we practiced it over and over and over. We had to use it a whole variety of flows, and we had good mentors that had us do it. But I think a lot of people don't practice it. It's just not something they do until they get to a big rapid, and they've never done it. And they don't want to pull out a tool the first time they've done it. So it's a thing worth practicing on easier water. Like on the Rogue, you can practice it all day long. And so really figuring out how to look behind you and get the timing, it does take practice. You can't just theoretically understand the downstream ferry and do it. It takes some actual time on the water.
I'm going to say, I think the best way is catching eddies, using your downstream ferry to catch eddies. I think that is a great way, and it's just such an easy. Once you start catching eddies like that, you're like, oh, this is so much easier. Why am I pushing into them and getting spun around and fighting eddy pins? I can just pull in and be done. A couple hard strokes, and you can just like float in. Basically.
You can push into eddies too, but you're not as powerful.
Yeah.
So like the same idea where you're like pushing down across the line. I like pushing into when I can because I'm facing upstream and I can see the other boats come down and provide safety. But if it's a really hard eddy, I can't push into it. I'm going to downstream ferry.
See, I like pushing because I think it's more challenging. It's a harder challenge for me because I know I can do it pulling easily. It's way easier.
You can do it on downstream ferry easy or pull.
Yeah. Easy. Downstream ferry is easier. So then I'll try to push in just because it's like harder.
And I think that's an important point though, Aaron. It's more difficult for you and you want the challenge. I think what happens is people see really good boaters push into eddies and like, oh, that's what I should be doing. And a lot of good boaters are like, they want the challenge of doing it. It's not the best technique. Like we should probably be learning downstream ferry earlier, but really good boaters only pull out when they really need something big.
Yeah, when I'm scared and I'm worried about this, like, hey, I don't want to mess this up, I'm pulling.
But when you're not scared, you're pushing because you want to like see if you can do it. Like, man, it'd be cool if I could catch that one on a push, because it takes strength, but also takes your timing has to be just right. You have to have
right angle. Yeah, everything has to be just right. You can muscle it real easy pulling, but pushing, you got to have it.
And you have to plan like a minute ahead of time. Like, there's an eddy down there. I'm going to start building momentum across the river, and your timing a minute from that moment you start has to be spot on to catch the eddy, and it's a fun challenge. Totally. The Adidas shoes are holding up great, man. I love them. If I could buy 5 more pair right now, I would. I heard they stopped making them, so that's a bummer. Were you laughing at this one earlier? And there's some gear boats that carried all the gear. So I had my own. Hey, I had my own dry bag.
You did? I didn't see it in there. Where was it?
It was in there. I mean, I wanted some weight. I was doing a little bit of a wheelie in that boat, so my dry bag was in there. Let me pull it back up. I'll show you.
Did you have Heather's dry bag as well?
No.
She didn't want you to have her dry bag with you?
Do you see that brown bag right there?
Oh, yeah.
And then I have a little accessory bag right there. So, I mean, I kind of wanted some weight, but I also liked not have to rig very much stuff in every day. That was pretty luxurious to just rig one boat in. Slant board. Sweet. Yeah, slant board. I think the problem with slant boards is you kind of have to go custom. Like, you have to get the frame for the boat.
What do you mean?
Well, because you want the slant board as steep as you can get it, and so you want the bottom bar as low as you can get it. But like, all boats don't have the same size tubes, and so the frame I use for our wings won't work on the Puma because the wings have bigger tubes, and so it would work. It'll just sit higher, where you really want that bar to be as low as you can to get the best angle on the slant board. I need to send my complete failure at Downstream Ferry and Bedrock. Went left, comical but upright. Downstream Ferry worked. Yeah, the Downstream Ferry to me is just a critical tool for the Grand Canyon.
And Bedrock is a classic spot. Yeah. You get a nice Downstream Ferry.
Yeah. Have you seen that video that Tom Martin? I think not Tom Martin. There's another guy who's the Grand Canyon guy who made a video about how to run the Grand Canyon. It's like an hour and
Yeah. Did we watch that at one point or part of it?
I think we watched like a few minutes. Somebody wanted us to review it. We watched like 5 minutes of it. Yeah. But the moral of the story is Downstream Ferry.
Yeah.
It's just on the Grand Canyon, those rapids are all way easier. If you try to push those moves, it's just not bright. Skull cataract. Sweet. Yes, skull. I forget the line is at skull. Defensive.
Yeah, I feel like it is a more aggressive move with the Downstream Ferry, and the Upstream Ferry is more like, I want to slow down, I'm not sure what to do, versus you're being decisive with the Downstream Ferry. Totally.
I think with the Downstream Ferry, you're speeding the rapid up too. Like when you're pulling upstream, you're like slowing things down. You're like, I have more time. But when you're pulling the boat downstream, like you're going towards downstream faster, which is where the feature you're scared of usually is. So it's a little intimidating because you're moving faster to the problem. But
I'm going to say this, but I think what's funny about it is if you are intimidated and scared, you're much better off with the Downstream Ferry, which is funny. It's like when you're worried and nervous and want to be all passive, and defensive, that's not the time. That's the time to turn around and be aggressive.
Yeah. Aggressive. Patrick used the word offensive. You're using the word aggressive. I like the word aggressive, I think. But we got to be careful. There's a couple ways. The terminology here is important. There's the Downstream Ferry. There's I'm going to call it like an upstream ferry. And then there's just pulling 90 degrees of the current. And that's that's a different beast on its own, right? Like pulling 90 degrees of the current isn't a ferry. You're just literally pulling the boat to shore, which works a lot. And I'm a big fan of that technique.
I don't know if we've talked about this when I'm teaching courses. That's one of my favorite things to do with students in paddle boats and oar boats. Paddle boats, if it's deeper, is just say, get perpendicular to the current. Now push or pull to where you need to be. Or in a paddle boat, it even works better. Just forward or back out and just keep your boat perpendicular to the current. If you have a drop, turn it to go over it. But in general, you can, we can nerd out. If going downstream is the y-axis, you can just move back and forth along the x-axis as the river takes you downstream.
Aaron, we talked about this. We had this big argument like a few months ago because I said you should be teaching ferrying first. And you're like, no, teach 90 degrees of the current first. I'm like, that's ridiculous. You should learn to ferry first. We did talk about this, but I think being 90 degrees of the current is an important skill that should be taught after ferrying. And you said, no, you should teach.
No, I'm going to still say you should learn that first because you need to understand where the current is and when you are 90 degrees to the current. And when you're doing a downstream ferry, you're not exactly sure it is. So you first got to understand where is the current, where's your boat relative to the current. Then it's very easy to learn a downstream ferry, upstream ferry from that spot. When you know where you are, then it's easy. Downstream ferry, farther down. Upstream ferry, you're turning back upstream.
I'm going to remind you of this comment. I think honestly with this, you're just trying to be.
No, I teach that first.
You teach 90 degrees the current before you teach ferrying.
I'll say is when someone's struggling with figuring out how to run the river and stuff like that, and they're not getting it, I go to there.
Hold on, Aaron. Let's start over. Do you teach ferrying first, or do you teach 90 degrees to the river first?
I'm very, what's the word? I'm very into experiential learning with rafting. We just hop in there and be like, all right, here's the commands, go for it, do what you think's right. I try not to give them too much information initially, and then we add stuff in.
Okay.
But there's people initially who have no feel. I'm like, okay, hey, try to
ask you
the current.
A question now. Are you ready to answer a question?
Yeah.
Do you teach ferrying first or 90 degrees of the current first?
Well, I don't, it depends on the student. I say as a class,
you can't answer the question.
I teach from, if I'm teaching someone perpendicular to current, I teach them that usually first.
What?
But I don't teach everyone perpendicular current.
It sounds like you don't teach them anything. You just send them out boating and hopefully they figure it out. Yeah, I do.
Just like figure it out. And I give them,
Aaron,
I kind of steer them along.
Is that called teaching? Or is that just called going boating?
It might be called going boating. But I think the point is that I feel like too many times I've seen with people trying to teach other people any skills, particularly rafting.
They're talking too much.
They're talking a lot. And I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm trying to decide what to do. But I'm trying to understand what you want me to do versus just make decisions for myself. And that's my big thing. It's like, you decide where you want the boat to go. Here's some basic concepts. Here's how you turn the boat. Here's how you associate forward, back paddle. And let's just go out there and like use what you think is right. And then we start slowly adding tools into the tool belt as they go, and different tools to different people at different times. And then we have some, after the first day, all right. The next day, then we're going to start introducing some ferrying. But that first day, maybe two, depending on the course, we're just letting them just kind of figure it out. I'm
going to teach people early on to catch eddies, and then I'm going to teach them the ferry. That's going to take 2 days. I'm going to like what you said. We're going to practice a lot. We're going to try things out. We're going to first work on catching eddies, and then from there we're going to talk about ferrying, and then down the road we'll talk about 90 degrees to the current.
See, I'm even just like, we're just trying to call paddle commands, and this is paddle boats, which is a little different.
You teach different things. I'm teaching rowing. You're teaching paddling most of the time.
And I say this is mostly paddle. I really like this with paddle boating because otherwise what you end up happening is people call forwards, and you're just forward and downstream forever the first day. And that's usually when I break it out. I was like, dude, we are not forward. I'm tired of paddling. I don't want to paddle 50 strokes in a row. And I'm just getting annoyed. I'm like, okay, hey, let's just get the boat perpendicular current. Where's the current? Okay, the current's going this way. Okay, turn the boat so it's sideways to the current. Now I want you to use a couple of strokes to move it back and forth. And that's where I really use it initially, is with those people who are doing those long forwards downstream, to get them over that idea that they need to forward everyone, drive it like a car. And get that idea of like, hey, the river's going to take you downstream, just move back and forth.
All right, let's get to comments.
Yes.
Does my light boat dash your theory about my heavy boat loads?
Well, no. I mean, if Zach had a bunch of empty dry bags on there to make it look like it had more weight in it than not, then that would be right in line. So I'm not surprised that he didn't even take his wife's bag. I'll put it that way.
I mean, this started because Aaron and I, when we used to guide together, would take, each of us would take more bags to have a bigger bag stack.
We tried to fight, to see if
so we like tell the guests in the morning, like, bring me your bag, and we try to have a bigger bag stack. And then after a while, we just try to make our stacks look bigger.
No, one time I was destroying Zach, and I had a huge stack with all of them. So Zach took a couple of empty water jugs and makeshift something to make it look like he had a big pile of bags. He had like 3 bags. So Zach was very into the like making it look like he took a lot of bags when he wasn't.
Was it you that time that took the oar and put it vertical and put a bag on top?
I think so.
Was that you? Anyway, we used to fight over who had more bags, which turned into who had just the baddest ass looking stack of bags.
Yeah, that may have been me. All right, what more comments? Yeah,
I think a lot of these guys are back rowing to get time to analyze next move. When do you back row to analyze your next move versus getting out scouting? I don't back row to analyze my next move.
Yeah, I would say in general, instead of back row, I'm going to stand up on my cooler or stand up high to get a better view, because that's going to get me a view farther out. Usually if I'm back rowing, that means, I mean, once you can see it, you can see where you need to go. And if I stand up, I can see it earlier, and then I can go make my move. If I'm trying to slow it, it doesn't even make sense to me why I slow down. It's like you can either see what needs to be, you can either see the river, or you can't. And so that's interesting. It's like I've never really.
If I'm rowing and I don't already know how I'm going to row it before entering it, I'll scout. If I can't see enough of it, I can look at the rapid. I'd like Aaron said, I'll stand up and say, "Oh yeah, I see where to go." I already know how I'm going to run it, and I will execute that. But if I'm mid rapid, not going to make up a plan. I'm going to.
And I'm going to say, if I don't have a plan and I'm going to have to run it, pulling backwards upstream is not going to help me much at that point. I've just got to make a decision and go for it.
Yeah.
So.
That's the Mark Hunt video we're talking about. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, that was a great video. Yeah.
You learn to watch your downstream order when you do Aaron's method.
That's the problem with that. And that's why I said deep water. And that's why it works better for paddle boating. Yeah. But just understanding. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's probably why you do that more. I mean, I wait. That's probably why I wait to teach 9 degrees, because I really hammered downstream more for a long time. And I keep yelling at him to watch your downstream more. So then later on, I'll be like, hey, there's this one technique where you have to be really careful. So that's probably why I introduce it late. It's when upstream ferry fails. I'm not sure if I agree with that. It's a upstream ferry fails.
Well, I would say this is, I'd rather just start 90 degrees earlier and maybe do that. You're doing 90 degrees because your upstream fails, because you probably could have been 90 degrees.
I think the upstream ferry works really well in class 2 and 3. I think a lot of times you're just like having to get from 180 to the other. You're just doing like a nice casual ferry to here, and you're like getting behind a rock and ferrying somewhere. I think class 2 and 3 works really well. In class 4 rapids, there tend to be laterals or V waves, whatever you want to call them, that guard things. You have to break through. And if you hit those on upstream ferry, it just funnels you back to the middle. You can't break those things, whether it's like a really strong eddy line or something. So you have to break it either by piercing through on a push or piercing. I use the word piercing a lot, piercing through on a downstream ferry. And so, or sometimes you just have to get to shore, and 90 degrees is the way to go. But yeah, I don't know.
Totally agree, Sean. I think that's why I like that activity, is because people assume there was always going straight downstream, and it's not. And you're like, where's the current? And they'll just point straight to shore. You're like, no, hey, the current's actually going that way, or the current's going this way. And that's why I really do like that drill a lot.
The rock pivot. I think I know what you're talking about. I like pivoting off rocks, but I don't know this particular rapid. Like rock pivot, like coming down, like hitting a rock and spinning on a rock. I do that a lot. But I
like that type of rock pivot. And I like the type 2 also, where I'll downstream ferry onto top of a little nub rock where it slows me down and
brings the whole boat around.
And brings my whole boat around, and then I come off with a lot less momentum. I like that one a lot too. Like both, like the one you hit it and pivot, and or you kind of just barely kind of kiss it and kind of come around.
I think there's a bunch of skills that people learn by rowing gearboats down the Tuolumne at 1,000 that you just you can't get a boat down unless you learn how to use rocks. And once you've used rocks a bunch, you start using rocks a bunch. But I can't remember Hill's half mile, so I'm not sure what we're talking about exactly. All the time I saw it, I tried it. All the time I saw it, tried it, worked though. Yeah.
So it sounds like he didn't. He was a question, but yeah.
No, Patrick, Aaron would not. You can tell. Go back and watch it. He was avoiding the question. He was double speaking. He was like, I caught him in a not a lie, but like he was trying to avoid the question. I just really wanted you to answer.
Well, it's not a simple question. That's not.
It's a simple question. Do you teach 90 degrees or ferrying first?
It depends. It depends. Okay,
whatever.
What's ROTFL?
Rolling on the floor laughing. I know my tech speak. Ever rode the Loxaw? I rode it once at super low water, so I would say no.
I've rode it at high water and I swam.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
In the
I
Loxaw Falls?
I can't remember at Loxaw. One of those ones. There were a bunch of them. I think it was Loxaw. This was like 1997, so it's a long time ago. Yeah, and I can't remember if the boat flipped or it landed upright and we just all fell out. But it was like a creek. It was like a little stern with slant board frame. It was one of the UC Davis ones, and I kind of slid out and fell out. Yeah, it wasn't my proudest moment. Our boat was really light too, which was hard at high water.
So. And my impression is of the Loxaw is it's just like big water, class 3, easy, class 4. Like you can upstream ferry, you can downstream ferry, you can do whatever you want. Like there's nothing really critical there. You just kind of like you just get on the right side of the river and go through waves, and then go the other side of the river and go through waves. You're not making like big moves or breaking through laterals.
There's some big features that you kind of have a hard time avoiding.
And so you go through the big features and you have fun and you laugh and people flip once in a while, and it's not super.
Yeah, all that stuff you don't like to do with rafting, Zach. All that stuff that you don't find fun.
I don't actually, honestly, like I've just been around enough swimmers and people get hurt that I don't want to have that happen. And if I know, like the Loxaw, if I know there's a bunch of people going to go big, go down the middle of stuff, I'm not going to go. I'm like, cool, have fun. Like that doesn't appeal to me. I don't want to be around people scared, tired, cold, hungry, hurt. I'm going to personally avoid that.
Do you not find running an oar-paddle combination with like four people and just crushing big waves, just like just pounding through? That's not fun.
I'd rather go kayaking. If it's my day off, I mean, it's fun. It's fun. If I have 4 paddlers and oar paddle combo, I like crushing waves. But if I'm going to go on my day off to go boating, I'd rather go kayaking on something technical.
Oh, yeah.
And with a bunch of competent people who want to just like be safe, than go out to like this thing where there's just a bunch of people going big or going home. Now I'm old though, like I'm almost 50, so I can be.
I like those big features and what they can do to the raft and how it makes the raft really little, and it can really move the boat. Like you got a big breaking wave and you call it back, dude, and it like kind of breaks and slides you all the way across the other side of the river.
You do that in a kayak. It's more fun in the kayak.
Nah,
like the subtleties of things are really fun.
It's more impressive in a big raft where you just your huge raft just got moved
your opinion.
10 feet to the towards the other side of the river. It's like
whoa, that's so cool. High five, everyone. Paddle high five. I mean, and for me, I'd rather cap boat too. Like I think cap boating the Loxaw would be a lot of fun. Loxaw Falls looks like it's kind of luck of the draw, and I'm not dying to just go power into a big feature and get beat down. I don't want to get hurt. I'm just getting old. I'm turning that person. So I'm doing some sort of boarding form, trying to coordinate private boat trips. Planning the White Salmon new area. God, Johnny, I wish.
Does Facebook have anything good on it for that area?
I mean, I think every area has like a Facebook thing, like a boating group. Some of them are private, so you can't just find them and join them.
But you ask, usually a lot of them you can find and ask to join. And then they would say, hey, I'm a boater and I'll look to join. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do the White Salmon, send me a note. I'll meet up with you. If I'm in town, like I'll go paddle it with you. I'll be your second boat. I'll be your wingman. Yeah. You just
it's nice to find people. And I think those online forums are really nice for finding people. Like the Facebook groups and stuff. Like when I was living up in,
there's a bunch of them. And like you can search for them. Like there's a Hood River. I think it's Gorge Kayaker Chat is a Facebook thing. And you just join it and people go boating. There's probably a bunch I'm not a part of. I don't even know anymore. But most of them are on Facebook now. But I would say to go for the White Salmon, like for me, I'm going to tell you my personal things. And everybody's different. But like I like people who are on time, who are ready to go. Like I have somewhat limited time. So when I go boating, I don't want to have people show up, get there an hour late and have them take forever to get ready. Right. That just like annoys me. And I won't go back with people like that just because I have limited time to boat and I want to go boating. And I like people who look out for each other. Like look back. If I'm kayaking and you're just never looking behind, that's a thing that like gets on my nerves. Why I'm not going to, when I go boating in the real world, that's not on the show, I'm not going to tell people that. It's like, I don't want to like it's not my job to be like educate people all the time on my feelings about boating. So I'm not gonna be like, hey, I'm not boating with you anymore because you don't look around anymore, or because you show up half an hour late stoned. Or like there's people who like show up and put in and drinking beers. Like that's just not my style. So like if you're doing that or pulling over to smoke a bowl, I'm like, our style doesn't match. But for me, if our style matches, I was be going more.
Zach, I think.
Am I being mean here? Or am I being honest? But I think everybody's different. Like this is just who I like. Other people are like, if you don't smoke a bowl, they're probably like, oh, you're lame. You're not cool. I don't want to boat anymore.
I think Zach, but I think it's a good thing for people to hear and to recognize, because some people are like, well, I don't want to get buying trips. It's like,
I hear that all the time. Why can't I make boating friends? Why can't I go? And some of the people who say those things, I'm like, I've boated with you before. I had to carry your boat down the river for you. I had to wait for you forever. You forgot your helmet. You showed up late because I need a latte in your hand. Like, dude, like, come on. So you have to find, and some people like that.
Don't be the last one ready. Don't be the last one suited up. Don't be the last one with your life jacket on. Mm-hmm. Like those are basic things for most groups. Like just don't be the last one that's holding up the group. Yeah. And like, I think that's a really good rule. And like you said, and then on the water, be thinking about the team and offer to help other people out with their stuff.
And recognize there's different people. Like I may not want to boat with someone, and I'm not saying I don't want to boat with anybody here, but I'm just saying like I might choose not to go boating with somebody where somebody else is like, oh, sweet, we're chugging beers at Put In. You're my kind of guy, right? Like you might find the right group of bros. So I think the first thing is to teach. I disagree.
I think see Richard. That's why I like the way I do it. I agree, Richard. And someone said,
hold on, Aaron. How do you teach me? How do you teach to read the river? What do you teach?
I think first is like turn the boat sideways to the current. Where's the current? That teaches them two things at once, particularly for paddleboarding. It teaches them to hold their angle, which is one of the most important things with paddleboating, is being able to hold your angle, which way is it turning, and the second is be aware of where the river's taking you. So you're simplifying the whole process.
Aaron,
which way is the river taking you? Get your boat perpendicular to that.
It's obvious which way is the river taking you.
No, it's not always.
Hold on. That's not reading the river.
That is.
Where the current, like the current's going that way. That's not reading the river.
That's just reading the river.
Anybody can see where the current's going.
No, that's exactly what Sean was talking about earlier. It's tricky sometimes. The river doesn't just go straight downstream. It kind of winds around.
On class 2, it does.
There's a lot of rocks and stuff. And the other part of it, Zach, is once you do this and you get perpendicular current, okay, where do you want to go? Either you decide to go forward or backward.
There's no other decisions. Aaron, hold on. We're not talking about perpendicular current anymore. You don't have to defend your position.
No,
we're talking about reading the river.
That's part of reading the river. And then you say, oh, there's a rock. Do I want to go left of it or right of it? Let's make it simple. That's reading the river. Where's the current going? Where do I want the raft to be? Break it up. Keep it really simple. People make it
okay, so you're saying when you teach people to read the river, you're saying watch out for rocks and look at where the current's going.
I didn't even tell them that. I just get your boat perpendicular current. Okay. Oh, there's a rock coming. Well, where do you want to go? Oh, I want to go that way. Okay, then go that way. Don't go in the rock. Cool.
Nobody should be. This doesn't make any sense. Like the first thing you teach is not get perpendicular current. That's how people rap and flip and get in trouble.
No, don't.
Like that is a way to run the river. But that's not. Hold on. Let's get back to the original thing. Reading the river. How do you teach reading the river? It's hard to teach. It's hard to give people cues to read the river.
The basics are easy.
What are the basics? That's what I'm asking.
Avoid the rocks.
No shit. Like there's nothing to teach there. People shouldn't just know that.
Reading the river is knowing where the current is going and avoiding the rocks.
That's not true. That is not true. That is not.
High volume is different.
So Richard is saying the first thing to do is tell people know where the water's going and miss the rocks. Like people know that already.
No, but they don't know exactly. Like Zach, it's amazing when I tell people to get perpendicular to the current.
Do not get perpendicular to the current. Anyone?
Aaron. That's Zach, not. I'm just saying in a class when I do that, it's amazing the percentage of people who don't realize where the current is going. It's unbelievable to me. Because I was like, what's this person doing? Like just a long time ago, I'm like, what's this person doing? Why? And I'm like, hey, just get your raft perpendicular to the current right now. And they don't like, oh no, that's not perpendicular to the current. And they're like, huh? And then they're like, this is perpendicular.
I don't want everybody.
The current's actually going this way.
I don't want anybody to leave this thinking they should get perpendicular to the current. That's how you run rivers.
Get perpendicular to the current. Get perpendicular to the current.
Do not, especially in an oar boat. I would say it's a more of an intermediate technique. So you can teach all you want to your paddle boaters, Aaron.
I think you have to be, and you do need to be careful if you're downstream.
Okay, but Aaron, let's not talk about. Try not to use the words perpendicular current, and answer the question: how do you teach people to run the river?
Perpendicular.
I mean, no. Read it. So
I don't. I don't really teach them to run the river. I think the thing, Zach, is people, dude. How do you walk down the street and avoid people? Does someone tell you, "Oh, this is how we walk down the street. Let's teach you to walk down the street"? No, you have an intuitive sense for it.
That's my point. Then there's no reason to teach that. No, watch out for rocks. Nobody needs to teach to watch out for rocks.
No, you don't have to tell them to watch out for rocks. They just know that part. But when you talk about reading the river, it's like get your boat sideways and go forward.
Stop using the word sideways and perpendicular. You're turning this into a different argument. Okay, let me tell you what I think. Like, reading the river is something you learn from practice. You start seeing little details in the river that you can read the river, right? That early on, the only things you can teach that are beyond the obvious, like watch out for rocks or whatever, is shoot the V, cut the C. Those are things people early on can do. So when I teach reading the river, I start with two simple things, like stay to the inside of turns and look for the V's. That's like beginning river running right there. That's the first thing. And that takes about 5 minutes to teach at the most.
Yeah, I don't even start with that.
Because you don't need to. And that's my point, is like Richard says it's the first thing he teaches. I don't start with that either. But when I'm beginning to teach, when I learn, I start with catching eddies and ferrying. Let's catch eddies, catch eddies, catch eddies, catch eddies. Let's ferry a little bit.
Reading the river, because a big part of reading the river is where are the eddies.
That's when when I teach how to catch eddies, I explain what they are and where they are.
Oh, so you're teaching them how to read the river.
Not directly, but yeah, sure.
Yes, you are.
You
can't read the river. You cannot drive down the river.
You can. It's not that hard.
You may not know the nuances of it, but you gotta be able to read it to drive it.
Yeah, watch out for rocks. No kidding. So I think with reading the river, though, everybody says, teach me how to read the river. And it's a really hard thing to teach because there's so much subtlety and nuance to it that you learn that you get from practice. And sometimes you read it wrong. Like sometimes you think something's there and it's incorrect. So reading the river is something you have to understand that you're doing your best.
I agree with that in the sense it's like, just like you don't teach someone, hey, teach me how to read the road. Like driving a car. No one says, like, let me teach you how to read the road so you can learn to drive. It's like, no, let's teach you how to drive the car.
Yeah.
You decide where to put it. And I think that's really true with rafting is
I agree. I think learning how to move the boat.
People are like, oh, I want you to teach me how to read the river. I agree. There's a certain aspect is putting time in, but another as important aspect is just trusting your instincts, trusting your feel, and just looking at where do you want to go and make a decision.
And get perpendicular to the river.
Get perpendicular to the river.
All right, let's move on.
Because then perpendicular river.
I don't want to hear it. I'm done. No, I'm done with your perpendicular stuff. OWA is actually a great organization.
What's OWA?
To the Oregon Whitewater Association. And they have meetings like the first Wednesday of the month in Portland. And that's a great place to meet people. There's usually 50, 60 people in meetings. There's always a guest speaker. And they have if you remember, there's a club Facebook thing where you can find people to go boating with too. And they organize club. I've led a couple of OWA trips where you can join other boaters on rivers throughout the area. So that's a great place to go. I can maybe go Sunday morning. I'm leaving for the Rogue Sunday afternoon, but if we can send Aaron an email at aaron@riversandoceans.com. Let me know when you're going.
I'll book it for you there, John.
And let me know when you're going. And I'd love to meet you. It'd be fun to go out there. And it needs to be a little bit swift because I have to get back to do some stuff. I'm going I think I'm going tomorrow, by the way, on the way to Salmon with a friend. So if tomorrow works, we can maybe fit you in. Prover, pivot above stern.
Yeah, that's a nice rock pivot. Yeah.
I mean, that's when we were mentioning it, that was where my brain was. Like that move where you just come right up to the rock and spin through and just power past.
You don't even have to touch the rock though.
I mean, 1100, 400. I mean, you can do it at 900. Yeah. I mean, you can do it probably lower. It's you don't have to touch the rock. You're right, because there's usually a pillow. You just have to get real close, and then it spins you around. but you can touch the rock. You don't have to not.
Totally.
Touch the rock.
This is true, Brett. It's a good idea. It's like having the annoying friend. You know you're not the annoying person if you know the annoying person.
I have a friend that I boat with a lot, and I really like boating with him, but I know I have to add an extra hour or two to my timing.
Do I know this person?
What? No.
I don't know.
I mean, Dougie. Dougie's one of them for sure. Yeah. But like like this time of year, especially, like I'm busy. I have a lot going on. I have to manage the show with Aaron. And so like when I go boating, sometimes I'm like, I got to be home at 5. And so if I get home at 6 once, I'm like, okay, well, that person is, and not because if there's a problem in the river, that's fine. But if it's because of all we call it jangling now, all the, taking forever to talk to people, which is nice to talk to people, but sometimes I just got to bust it out. So I'm being elitist right now. I got to stop talking. How to identify features?
Exactly.
Like what features? Name the features.
Well, so I'll say, for example,
rocks.
Like when
I can identify a rock, Aaron.
No. If someone's like, if you're doing the whole perpendicular current thing going down, all of a sudden you get stuck on a rock just underneath the surface, then that's a great teachable moment. And that point you can talk about pour overs and looking at pour overs and looking how it's just one wave and there's nothing behind it, and just point out a couple of other ones around. So looking for those times, but
tell me the features.
A lot of people figured that out for themselves, and they don't need to be told. Like
they don't need to be told
really
that. That's my point. Is people can usually with some time they start going, oh. So and for me, like if I think about the order, I teach in like an intermediate level. I'll teach surfing, and so they can like get comfortable in holes. And then on the river, I'm like, now go into a hole. Like now, there's a hole there. You've surfed a hole like that. Just go into it. And they start once you've gone into some small holes, you're like, oh, I see what they look like above them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. So like I think teaching
That's an interesting way to do it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Like getting rid of the fear of holes. Like and also saying some holes are good and some are bad. I'm gonna send you to surf this hole and see what it does to you. Cool, you lived. Now I'm gonna point out some holes that are not even that hard that I want you to go into on purpose. And as you start running those holes on purpose, you're like, oh, that's what it looks like above a hole. I think really helps. Should predict what happened downstream with the correct size. Yeah. Little rapid on subway at low water has lots of rocks. Rock pivots are handy. Yeah. I've never done it at low water, but Aaron, I'm sure you're right. Right? That's a good way to go. Do you call the rock pivots airplane turns?
I feel like a rock pivot and an airplane turn are a little bit different in my mind. I feel like an airplane turn is like you're coming up and the current's just taking you around. Like, for example, I would say at the entrance to Blind Faith, you go right up on that pillow and then it like surfs you around like that. Like an airplane turns like that, like, and it's not about the rock pivoting you. It's more about what the current is doing to bring you around. So a rock pivot in my mind is you're hitting the rock and that's creating the turn. An airplane turn is
using the current more.
The current is bringing your nose around.
So airplane rapid on the Cal Salmon, that's using the current more.
Yeah, you're using the current more in that one.
Okay. Start to jet boat all on a wave all across. That's cool. Start to jet boat on a wave. What?
Whoa.
Wait, you were in the jet boat and you surfed a wave? I want details. This sounds awesome. Surfing in a jet boat has got to be fun.
Ooh, that'd be, I don't think.
Rock, hole, pour over, eddy, tongue, pour over. Okay, so pour overs in there twice. I would say a pour over and a hole are relatively close to each other. I mean, this is basically what rocks are rocks. Like, I don't think we need to teach people about rocks. They just know what they are. A hole and a pour over are close to the same. An eddy's good. A tongue's good. Yeah, so a tongue to me is the V. So I'm going to say the beginning level of reading water, I'm going to start with shoot the V and cut the C. The V are the tongues, and the C means stay to the inside of turns. I think anybody can right away understand those things.
I think eddy fence is a really key one.
But you can't read an eddy fence.
Yeah, you can.
Not really. I mean, how do you teach that?
Look, but I think there's a place where the current's going opposite. You can see a lot of eddy fences.
Yeah, I don't really teach that. But catching, I think eddies is super elementary too. Like knowing what an eddy looks like is crucial. So I'd say eddy, and then reading holes and pour overs is just hard.
Takes I think that's a lot about well, it's not that bad if you talk to people about looking for a wave train. And if it looks like a one-way wave train, then it's usually a hole or a pour over. If it's a wave train that keeps going, if it's flat right behind, all super flat, it's not.
So I'm gonna put that in intermediate reading water.
Oh, really? I talked about that right away.
Yeah. For me, like beginning reading water is shoot the V, cut the C. Just focus on that. You got enough going on. I've told you about 5 million things. Let's shoot the V and cut the C. And that's what you're going to learn. And intermediate, and eddies, of course, are in there because we're focused on eddies early on, right? I want you to catch an eddy.
Where are you cutting the C on the road?
On every C there is. Sanderson riffle, Russian.
Are you actually cutting the C?
You're moving that way, yeah.
Staying off the wall.
I mean, on the Selway, I was cutting the C like you wouldn't believe. I was cutting C's around every corner. I really was. Heather was asking about reading water and what you do, and I'm like, oh, I stay the inside of all these turns because I don't know what's coming up. And then I kept pointing out, like, see on the outside, that's where there was a log that got caught. And I mean, I cut the C a lot. Those are the things I think are easy to teach, and it has a nice ring to it. Cut the C, shoot the V. And then intermediate level is like being able to see holes. It's hard. It's just hard. So that comes later.
See, I feel like if you're in low water, very low water stuff, you don't need to worry about cutting the C's if it's low volume, because you're just trying to avoid rocks. And if you're trying to avoid rocks, then you need to be able to find those pour overs right away and recognize those little pour overs because it's going to be shallow right there, and look for those because those are the things that are going to hang you up.
I think,
and I actually like for paddle boating, I really like starting off in very technical rivers so that the river beats them up and they learn to read the river. Because you got to figure it out or you're going to get stuck. And you learn pretty quick that way.
Yeah, I think teaching at low water is smart because the consequence of a mistake is getting stuck, not something worse.
Exactly. Now, rowing's a little bit different because I'm a little more worried about them getting hurt by the oars, but paddle boating, whatever, man. You know what I mean? It's like
whatever, man.
Whatever, man.
Whatever, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I think strainers are less about reading the water. I mean, I think there's reading the water and then there's hazards. And so early on, we got to talk about strainers, rocks, low head dams. Things that we definitely
you talk about low head dams right away.
I do, yeah. It's easy. Like I go down a list of things before we go in the water. Hey, here's the safety stuff. Wear a PFD, wear shoes. It's basically a safety talk. Watch out for wood. Man-made objects are dangerous. I don't say specifically
wear underwear and shorts. Please keep your shorts on.
I basically go through that. I'm like, I go through hey, this is the basics you should all know, so that nothing is skipped.
Okay.
Airplane turn is a good line exit through the picket fence on Boulder Drop Rapid. Let's get going. Huh? Good line exit through the picket fence. I never did that rapid. I gotta go do this guy Comish. Seeing the currents upstream where the customers will take me. I don't avoid a bad rock. Hold on, where to stop. Yeah, seeing the currents. I think that's hard to teach. I think that's my point. Is like some of the stuff is just really hard to like put into words. And sometimes when we're teaching rowing or boating, we like to. I mean, a lot of instructors talk too much, and people are just so sick of it. Like this show, I'm sure you're all sick of us talking, right? The instructors talk and people like nod their heads, and so I think it's really hard to teach some of this stuff.
I think that's why getting your boat perpendicular to the current really helps because that's understanding where the currents are going and where the currents are taking you. That's exactly why you do it. Right there, Richard. Couldn't agree more.
Hold on. How is your answer to talking about reading water perpendicular to the current?
Because he's talking about currents. Where the currents take me. If you are perpendicular to the current, you understand where the current is taking.
No, you don't. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's nonsense. If you're perpendicular to the current, you can be, whether you're perpendicular or straight to the current still takes you somewhere.
Yeah, but be perpendicular, understand, like, if I'm sideways to it, I know it's going in this direction. That's where the current's going.
I don't know what you're talking. I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know it's such a great idea. You just don't want to admit it on there. Afterwards, you're going to the show after the show, you're going to be like, oh my God, Aaron, that's so good. I'm going to start using that right away with all my students.
I'm not. That's why I want to be very clear to everybody. Do not teach this. Aaron is defending a position he's had for a long time. He's trying so hard to like.
Next time you go rafting on a technical low volume river in a paddle boat, just try to keep your boat sideways to the river as much as possible. And then turn it straight.
Aaron, I will take a paddle boat down the middle fork at low water here in a couple of weeks. I don't know where I'm going to make my boat if my boat is Aaron, when my boat is perpendicular to the river and I've guests in my boat and hit a rock, they're going to fall out.
Fall out. Yeah.
So you're trying to mess with me? Like, hey, Zach,
no, I'm not talking about for you. I'm talking for our listeners who are going out with their friends.
They're not. Nobody paddle boats anymore.
At the middle fork at like 9.9, where
Aaron,
it's so shallow, you need
nobody's paddle boats anymore. It's a lost art. It's for commercial guides to take people down rivers. It's not like people just
when you're R2ing, get it sideways and try that.
It's a good point. I'm with you on that. I could see that. But I could see that. I'm with you there. Okay. Where the currents take me, how I avoid a bad rock or hole, and where to stop. So where to stop is catching eddies. I think being able to see eddies is good. Avoiding a bad rock. I think most rocks when you're learning are probably bad. And then holes is just tough. I'll tell you, Aaron, one thing I've recognized with holes, with pour over holes, is usually when it's a pour over, there's like a little peak somewhere. Like there's rocks down there. And like there's a nub of the rock, and so if you're looking at a hole and there's a little peak, it's typically a pour over hole.
Or you can just look behind it, Zach.
From above, you can look behind it.
Yeah, you look downstream of it. If it's super flat behind it, it usually means it's a hole. That's the whole point.
No, is it a hole or a pour over
hole?
No, I get that, Aaron. Is it a? But I'm saying how to differentiate between a hole and a pour over hole. It's an important thing because a hole you can usually go through. A pour over hole will sometimes hold your boat, and so knowing which one's just a regular backwashing hole.
That's dependent on the volume, how big the drop is, what craft you're in.
You're being argumentative. You're right. You're right. Okay, you have to be able to spot a feature note, call, shoot the V if you want, but you're teaching them a feature and how to use it. Call it, shoot the V, feature and how to use it. Okay. Yeah. I think. This conversation got started, and we're on like so many tangents. I think when we're beginning to learn how to boat, I think teaching people to read water is really hard. I think it's just a difficult thing to do. And in part because we're teaching them so many things, like it's just one more thing we have to talk about. So we can sit there and talk to them for 8 hours straight if we're just educating them. So you have to go out.
You're making it harder than it needs to be.
I am personally right now.
No, when you're trying to teach them about it, like I think that's like trying to identify everything. Just like look where you think the boat wants to go and take it there.
Yeah.
Boom. So I think that's why I like to keep it real simple. Yeah. Trust your instinct. Where do you think the raft should go? Okay, then take it there. Let's go, and we'll see what happens. And guess what? I'll gonna step in if it's gonna be really bad. But we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah. And by learning on non-threatening things where you can make mistakes, I think is the key. So I feel like our goal is to let's teach them some basic stuff, which is like basic safety. And for me, it's catching eddies. Let's go do a bunch of that. And then let's create a need for more information. And then somebody's like, oh, how do I do this? Like, oh, let me explain to you. So if you talk on boat for a couple hours, it's not that useful. Or if you talk a little bit, go boat and practice that. And then they're like, oh, that was cool. What about this? Oh, let me explain that to you. So almost create a need for the information, I think is helpful for teaching.
Well, and I think that works with catching eddies too. It's like, hey, let's try to catch it. Like it's pretty good if you got multiple days. And then you're like, okay, let's pull over. And then like, oh, how did that go? Hey, let's try this. And see how I think you're right though, is creating the need. And one of the things I really like about rafting is I don't have to tell you when you screw up. You're gonna know when you screw up. So I just wait for you to screw up and then we can talk about it and be like, hey, so that happened. Let's discuss.
And usually when people screw up, they learn from that. It's not like they screw up and they're like, there's no learning. Like, they take that information and go, okay, I should have done this instead.
I will say my favorite is when you're paddling in a boat for someone learning to guide and they're taking us right towards a big rock or something like you're just going to run into it and you just got to keep paddling hard. You can see the other people in the boat getting nervous, but you're like, no, we all just got to keep paddling like robots and let them learn from something. You go slam into the rock and they're like, but I think they learn more than if you're like, say, oh, you look, even if you like do body language and look back and get nervous, they pick up on that. Like, oh, I should be doing something different. You got to like, nope, I just paddle hard. I do what you're saying and then let it happen and figure it out, and not where people are getting wrecked, but you can you can hit a rock with a little bit of force and be like, yeah, we had too much momentum there. We don't need to paddle that long, that hard. So, yeah.
I'm with you. We're great comedy. Hey, look at that. We're comedy.
Thanks, Jacob.
That's the best compliment we've ever had. If you said we were great education, I'd be a little worried. But comedy, entertainment, that's what we're going for. Take a lot of time to ask your students and spot out different features during a scout and talk with them a bit. Yeah. I'm not scouting with students that much.
Well, you've heard my comment about scouting with students.
What?
So many times I get down and we run the rapid, and then there'll be something like we'll be like done with the rapid, and they'll be like, okay, we're halfway done, and you're like, yeah, you have no that did not it doesn't connect a lot. I feel like for students scouting to being down in the river and knowing where you are.
So I mean, reading water to me is like something done at river level, and so I want that people want to say when I'm looking ahead, how do I know that that's a hole, that's a pour over? How do I know where to go? Doing it from shore is a different perspective and doesn't help with reading water. So I don't. Unless
I was gonna say unless you get down at river level, get towards the top, and kind of walk out on some rocks at river level and look downstream to have more of that raft perspective, then I think it's more helpful in that.
Yeah, but when I'm scouting with students, I'm usually teaching them how to scout properly. I'm not focused. I like a lot of times I'll just scout with them and say, here's how I scout, and then you guys just go do your thing, and I'll see at the bottom.
Would you say that's part of scouting properly, though, is getting down at river level at the top of the rapid and getting out there and trying to look and find your markers and know what you're looking for?
I think that's a pro tip.
You know who I learned that from? Ben Wartburg. It was amazing. He's like, he's kayaked all this stuff, and he's like, hey, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, it's nice when you're out of the boat to get all your markers before you get in the boat. And I was like, oh my gosh, can't believe I haven't been doing this. And that was like a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, have you heard the mnemonic worms for teaching scouting?
Is that a Steve Welch?
No. I mean, it's in all the literature about teaching water, obstacles, routes, markers, safety. It's too much. So I just teach ohms, obstacles, markers, safety. Like look at your obstacles.
I mean, do we really need to memorize that? When you get a scout, what are you trying to look for? Where I want to go, where I don't want to go, what happens if somebody swims?
Obstacles, markers, safety. But there's people who teach. I mean, there's a lot of people who teach things. They love big They like to have whiteboards and go down, have big lectures. That's what worms is for. If you want to kill half an hour talking about scouting, where I'm like, let's talk about ohms. Know the things you want to miss. Have markers for your entrance and set safety.
I mean, do you really have to say it like that? Can't you just be like, okay, we're scouting. Where do you think we should go? Are you worried about anything? Is there anything we should be concerned about?
Yeah, you could do that too.
I mean, then
I think my main point is
I won't remember them. So I'll be like, Zach has a really good acronym.
It's not mine. It's what everybody uses. It's like worms is the thing people use to teach scouting, like across the industry, except I guess at Aaron's rafting school.
Aaron's lame rafting school.
I think markers.
We spend time. We learned a boat. We don't memorize vocabulary.
I think markers is key with scouting though. So that you from the shore, you're like, oh, you go here, here, and here. I think people when they scout, they look at the big nasty thing and decide where they're going to go, and they forget to look at the entrance and have markers to go off of.
But but that's walking down at the beginning part of the scout. Hey, walk down and take a look. And I don't have a cool acronym for it, but walk down to river level if you can.
You said the word markers. Have markers. You said the word. That's where
I said it, but I don't have the acronym, and I'm not going to remember.
Well, get on it.
I don't like those. I'm not a fan of acronyms. I think they're a waste of time.
They're not a waste of time.
Except for
you're being elitist
for medical stuff. I like sample for medical history because that one.
You're being okay.
That one's a little different.
You're being elitist.
How is that elitist? You love that word elitist
because it's the name of our show.
Okay.
I'm still find the power to make. If I have enough power, which way? Yeah, I mean it's tough.
I think that's experience, and that's the angle you're choosing. Taylor, I would say a good thing to do is practice getting perpendicular to the current.
Oh, jeez, whatever. But I mean, it's just practice. You'll make don't go anywhere scary where if you go the wrong way, you're going to die, right? Just go to rivers that are like well within your skill level and just read a lot of water and be the first boat so you have to make the decision. And if you go wrong, hopefully the consequences, you just get stuck or it's harder. And you're like, oh.
And make a decision. Yeah, make a decision early. Yeah. Just decide. Right? Zach, what did you say? Like there's a rock downstream. Just make a decision. Don't be like, I'm not sure which is better. I'm not sure. Just decide which way you're going to go and go that way.
And a lot of times, I mean, most of the time, both sides work. That's the thing I think people think about. They see a rock, like, oh my God, I got to go the right way. Well, it turns out both ways probably work. One might have a different consequence than the other, be harder than the other, but they both typically go. And so not getting too caught up in decision making and just go with one.
Trust your gut.
It isn't so hard to spot a pour over from shore. It seems you're only considering boat scouting. This isn't so hard.
No. You're right. It's easy to spot a pour over from shore, but I think Zach's point was to like when you're trying to teach people to identify that stuff, like it's really important to be able to identify it from the river and spend time learning to identify what it looks like from the river. Like it is easy to point them out from shore, and that is a good move to just talk about. Yeah, that's a pour over, that's that. But in terms of them learning it for reading the river, the angle is so different that it's not that helpful for once you're in the boat to identify them. Would you say exactly that's where you're coming to?
Yeah, I think it's what you're saying, Rick. I see what you're saying is like, if people don't know what a pour over is during a scout, you can be like, hey, that's a pour over. That's a good point. Like, I think to me, most people look at a pour over and know it's bad, but I think them learning the vocabulary is important. Like, hey, that's a hole, that's a pour over. I see that's a good point. Like, just for helping them understand what river features are. But I think this whole conversation started because of we're talking about when do we teach reading water? How do we teach reading water? And I think that's, for me, a really hard thing because I've tried so many things. It's a really, really hard thing to do, teach people how to read water. I've tried so many things. And I've learned to like keep it simple and do little bits at a time. Because if you just sit there, I've seen way too many people give like 45-minute lectures on how to read water, and people are nodding their heads and falling asleep. And in my experience teaching, especially whitewater, people who are teaching talk way too much, and they need to cut their talking by like 80%. And that's not an exaggeration, right? Like 80%, and like give them some information, allow them to practice and fail, then give them the information that they want when they want it. I think a lot of people, this is an opinion, a lot of people who teach boating really want to be educators. And so their experience as a teacher, standing up in front of people and sharing their knowledge, takes precedence over the student's experience of getting better. And so, in my opinion, if you want to teach people to boat, you need to focus on the student's experience, which means less of us talking, instead of your experience of you wanting to stand up and talk a whole bunch and share everything you know about boating. Does that make sense, Aaron? Is that too much?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that's one of the things that the instructors in general that I pull in, like I've worked with, is like people who know less is more. Just say enough. Maybe make a mistake on not telling just enough, and if they need more, they can ask for more.
Yeah,
but
tell them stuff, and then have some stuff ready in your like. Don't tell them everything you know, because they're going to ask questions. Then you can tell them more. Yeah. But like if you keep people listening for too long, like I've already talked too long on this little rant, you're going to lose people.
Well.
Right? And they can't process that much information. And I had several instructors this spring. I'm watching them give classes, and I'm like, oh my God, I can see people yawning. I can see them fidgeting. You lost them 10 minutes ago. Like, how do I end this talk? And I pull the instructor aside. I go, okay, next time you teach that, I want that to be 80% shorter. And a week later, I see them give it again. I'm like, did you even hear what I said? They gave the same it's a lecture. And I'm like, the more I thought about it, I feel like they wanted to be a lecturer on whitewater, instead of being a teacher. And a teacher gives information, allows people to experiment, and then brings back together and then gives more information.
No, I think that's a big key. And like, don't overthink it. I think that's one of the problems with it. All the front loading doesn't help a lot with the river thing. You just got to make a decision based upon what you understand, and not try to understand all this new information and then make a decision just like, where do I want to go? What looks good? And on that same thing, I think one of the things that helps a lot for learning to read water is inflatable kayaking, being a terrible hardshell kayak. I think that's where I got a lot better at reading the water, is becoming a class 1+ kayaker at first, where I just like go flip over. I'm like, what happened? And then you know, I'm like, the first time I remember pound, just flipping over and swimming, like, and then you got to learn. And so I think being close to the river in smaller boats helps a lot. those inflatable kayaks. I think the hard shell kayak, if you're athletic enough to deal with the swimming and the annoyance of it.
the swimming. If you don't mind swimming all the time, the hard shell kayak is great.
You're going to learn a lot. But also, I think swimming rapids helps, and just spending time in the water.
Yeah.
And do it, and not trying to like lots of short strokes and letting the boat float a lot. And that's, I'm going to go back to Zach hates it. But turning perpendicular current and just allowing your boat to float and feel how the boat is moving and trying just to use a couple of strokes at a time and see how that changes your momentum.
Let's move on. This is just annoying. I've had enough of this. Roddy, I agree with you 110%, man. I got into photography simply because I was so sick of waiting for people to scout. And I'm like, I'll just take photos. Like I just needed something else to do that didn't drive me insane.
I think that's why we like boating together. Because
walk down,
let's go.
See a line, make sure there's no wood, make sure there's safety, and go boat it. Don't sit there and talk about it forever and what if and where that, well, this. Everybody's always pointing, like, go over there, go over there. Everybody's standing up with their big PFDs, and they're just like, look at me, I'm a hero. Anyway,
I think it's very binary. Either yes, I feel like I can run it, or no, I can't. No, I can't. Then I'm lining it or carrying it or portaging it. And if I can, okay, that's the line I can do. Okay,
let's go do this.
Let's go do it. Yeah.
And I'm usually looking around. Who's ready to go? Can I get somebody else to go with me so I have some safety? Like, I see the line. All right, who can just go right now? Because I don't want to stand here forever. I guess you can't spot a feature shore. You're never going to spot it from your boat. Huh? Yeah, never thought of it that way.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah. I still feel like even when people can't spot them from shore, they have a lot of problems from the river. So
yeah, they look different. This is lower mid-level teaching. Master instructor adapts to their teaching. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's. I think that works with one person, but when you're teaching 10 people, sometimes it's hard to adapt to everybody's individual needs.
What is he talking as low level, mid level teaching? What we're talking about, or the lecturing? I think he's talking about the lecturing.
Oh.
And what we're doing is adapting their teaching to the student, because we're letting them go out there and figure it out, and we're working with them.
I mean, there's different learning styles, and so like
isn't that been proven to be overrated, and that's not as true as they say it is?
I mean, I think, let me see if I can find this. There's I don't know, but there's like experiential.
Yeah, the experiential learner, the listener, the doer,
This is what I use. Let me see if I can find this. We got to go soon. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I think this is it. How did I end up here? What is experiential learning and why is it important? What? This is just. I gotta find. Anyway, so like, let me see if I can find this. Here we go. This. Oh, come on. Why is this? Oh, there we go. This is kind of how I base my teaching now. Oh, you're not seeing what I'm seeing right now. Hold on. Like, this is where I try to think about as much as I can when I'm teaching. Like, give people an opportunity to practice and look back on it. This is what I think about a lot when I'm teaching. Anyway, we got to finish this up. Ask some questions, at least for me. Sweet. That's good to hear. Let's lecture at a shop. Ask some questions. Yeah. Cool. Well, Aaron, we got to shut this one down. We went on quite the rant there for a while. When I first saw you for the show, I thought you were going to fall asleep, and you're fired up.
Yeah, I've got a lot more energy now than I had at the beginning. So it's fun. It was fun to get a little escape from the normal work. So, and yeah, thank you guys all for tuning in. And yeah, this was a fun episode. This is a good episode. We got a nice conversation. So. Yeah, and congratulations to our winners. What did they get? What did they choose? Do we know?
They choose. I'm not going to go through it again, but they knew what they were. They'll email you with what they want and their addresses.
Sounds good. And then, so Zach, we're off all of next week. Is that correct?
I think I might make it. I get off the road Thursday, and so I think I can be here Friday.
I might be driving to Idaho on Friday, so maybe I'll be able to.
All right, maybe we'll have a show Friday. Maybe if we do, it'll be last minute. So no show next week. Tuesday, no show.
No Tuesday show.
Fridays maybe, but next week I'm good. You're on the river the week after that?
Yeah, the week after that I'm on the river. Yeah. So if you haven't, please like, subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications anytime Zach puts anything new online. Of course, like Zach, what are you up to now? 8,000? How many?
Almost 8,000.
We're still at almost 8,000. So I know you guys are probably all already members, but we appreciate your support. Appreciate all the questions and comments. Yeah, it was fun. Zach, thank you.
Thank you. We have one more comment. What is it? Oh, yes. What's admonition?
Sean, big words. That's a good question.
Yeah, despite what's our admonition? Is that good or bad? It's probably bad because it says despite our admonition.
The act or action of admonition, authoritative counsel, or warning. The old judge's admonition to the jury on this point was particularly weighty. Reprimand, rebuke, reproof.
We reprimanded people this week?
Or each other. Aaron, Idaho footage. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, hopefully. I'll see if I can get some. It'll be tough.
Hey, what trip are you doing next week?
I'm doing a fishing trip on the Selway.